Greetings, productive programmers. So now, congratulations, you have all of the functionality of Medium.com, and we are just going to do some cleanup and jazz up our UI. So on Medium.com, you can come in here and you can see the trending, it says trending on Medium, and it shows the trending topics. So on our application, we have all user stories. So these are not necessarily trending. If we were to come here into our home HTML Heeks, I guess these are like all recent stories, because we're posting by when they were recently created. So we have all recent stories, and those are kind of like the ones here that were posted recently. And so it's more like this. And we also can read other people's stories and leave comments on them, just like Medium.com. You can come in and leave a comment on somebody else's story, but you'll need to be logged in. I'm currently logged out. And so we also made it so if you are logged out, that we currently enforce that you must be logged in order to leave a comment, but you can still read other people's comments. And these comments by anonymous users came when we were previously working on our application before we actually were supporting those relationships. So there are some old anonymous comments, but I'll leave it to you if you want to delete and recreate your entire database and all that stuff now, or just go and manually clear these out. For now, I'm just going to work past these because they're not bothering us. And we also saw like some added bonus. So in addition to Medium.com, our application is even better because we can support anonymous comments if we wanted to. So, not to brag, but we have some additional functionality at our disposal should we decide to take over the world. So just having some fun with that. All right, so let's go ahead and inside of our story here, let's demonstrate how we can actually make this display nicely. So our show HTML Heeks here. And just some cleanup actually, because in our comment live folder here, we have all these old modules that we're actually not using. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these because we're only using the form component for our comment. So that's just that form component where we're logged in here. Our form component for creating comments is here, and it still functions. We don't need to have any of that index or show HTML and stuff inside of our comment. If you remember, we never put those inside of our router. So if we come into our router, there's no /comment route. There's no way to like manage your comments or anything like that in our application currently. You can only really come in here and create new comments on top of an existing story. So we don't need any of those. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete those, and just to clean up our code a little bit. And then but inside of our blog web live, story live, and our show HTML Heeks here, we are going to modify this so that way it looks a little bit prettier, because obviously Medium.com still has that advantage over us that when we click in to view a blog post, it looks a lot prettier than ours. Ours looks like this, and theirs looks like this. So we could just make ours look a little bit prettier just so that we can compete with them. So what we can do is we can just do some cleanup here. First thing, it says show story here. I don't like this. Where we leave our comments, we really should say something meaningful. So we should probably change this comment live form component to just say in the header, leave a comment. So that's all we have to do to change that. So leave a comment, and then message. This will be the message that the user leaves, and it has save comment. So this is perfect. So perfect there. And then what we can do is we can just jazz this up a little bit. So the way that I would do this to make this look nice is this is just Tailwind CSS. Now Phoenix 1.7 ships with Tailwind CSS. So all you have to do to make this look pretty is use Tailwind here in the HTML Heeks file. So what I'll do is I'll just add some HTML to jazz this up. Now, many of you are members of my website, and you have signed up during a time where you have access to Tailwind UI. So if you can make advantage of these components, then you can follow along with me. Otherwise, you can feel free to design the user interface of your application literally any way you want, just using Tailwind CSS, either raw, or you can find various examples by Googling online. You don't need tailwindui.com to make a pretty UI, but it does give us, and for those of you that have access to it through my partnership, we can kind of build a similar UI, and you get the feel of how to use Tailwind CSS by using a common interface with me. So I can go inside of where we have our blog sections, or let's take something like content sections. I'm just going to do a really simple design So actually this one is pretty nice, and I'm just gonna find something really simple, and I'm gonna take something like this centered one. This could work, and this could be like our blog post. So I'll just go ahead and I will just copy the code by clicking the copied button, and I'll take this over to where we have our show HTML heeks. And what I'll do is I'll put all of our custom code at the bottom for now, and I'm just gonna paste this in, and I'm gonna see, does this actually look decent when I come here and I look at our page? And it does look pretty decent. So if we could take our title and our body and our name and we could put it in here, this would be a pretty good template to start with. So let's go ahead and let's take out some of the stuff that we don't need here. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this and I'm just gonna clean up everything except for, I guess, where they are talking about this type of stuff. So I'll just do a Control F for that. And so I'm gonna get rid of everything below there that's not necessary. So this is just a matter of cleaning things up. All right, so I'm just gonna take all of this stuff out of here, and let's see how that looks now. All right, so that's a good start. So where it says introducing, we could have something like, if we go to medium.com, on the post, it displays the user's name at the top. So we'll take our user's name and we'll put it where it says introducing. So I'm gonna take our user's name and I'm going to stick that where it says introducing. And so now it'll say the name Bob. So this is a post by Bob. We'll replace JavaScript for beginners with the title. So I'm just gonna take the story title and I'm gonna put it here. And you can see what I'm doing. Like, this is really, so it's not too complex to basically rework a template with Phoenix LiveView, because it's just Tailwind CSS. So all I'm gonna do is just basically rework that. So that way it says Bob's story 2, and it has Bob's story 2 body all inside of here. And then I'm just going to, I'm gonna stick these comments that we have. So I don't need this. Do I want the header anymore? I guess I don't need the header. And this stuff was kind of the default that was given to us by Phoenix LiveView when it generated this file for us. So I'm just gonna take all of this stuff and I'm just gonna stick it here inside of the HTML. And there you go. I mean, it's not the craziest UI, but it works. And maybe we move the back to stories endpoint. Maybe we move that up to the top of the navigation. And if we come back here, now we have a back to stories. So that just needs a little bit of space. I'll just go ahead and I'll just add some margin top here to this element. And now it has a back to stories. I guess it's too much margin top, so it's just trial and error. And I know this is not necessarily perfect, but this gives you an idea of how easy it is to just basically, and this is a pretty simple template, right? This is not anything complex, but yeah, so we can jazz this up a little bit and it makes it work. So we can leave a new comment. So new comment, and when we create this comment, it will be inserted. It still functions, the application works fine. And let's go ahead, let's create a new story. So I'll create a new title here and I'll say, this is my awesome title. And then what I'll do is I will take some of the template text that's here as a starting point and I'll paste it there. So I have a little bit longer of a body, and I'll save this story. And then if I come to the home page and I was to click in and read this story, you can see that it looks pretty nice. So this is by test user. This is my awesome title. Here's the story basically. And then anybody can leave a comment here. So I can leave a comment. So this is going to be by the test user that leaves the comment. So I'll leave that comment. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log out. I don't know if we've done it yet. I'm going to register a new user. This is going to be Jane. It's going to be jane@test.com. And I'm just going to set up a random password. Now what Jane's going to do is Jane's going to log in, go to the test user's story and leave a comment saying that I am Jane and I love this story. And then we will save that comment and we'll say it's a comment by Jane. I love this story. And then if Jane was to log out and anybody was to go there and read that article, they'll see that Jane left that comment. So just to show that other users can leave comments on other users' posts. And so it's not the craziest UI, but I just wanted to show you how you can basically modify your user interface. Now, just keep in mind that Tailwind CSS, you can use any of these that you want to, and you can really jazz this up any way you want. It's just Tailwind CSS that's being stored inside of here, and all of the default code that Phoenix LiveView generated for us just can be pasted inside of these areas as well, just like I did. So all you have to do to make your application look differently, if you want to jazz it up, then is to just basically use Tailwind CSS, and you can use the raw Tailwind CSS, or you can work off of one of these components or templates that Tailwind UI provides to you, since you have access to that. Now, I'm not going to go through trying to make this look exactly like medium.com, although I will say out of the box, I mean, this little article here, it's really not that much different. I mean, look at this title. Our title is like the same thickness. We could, it's small changes really. And there's obviously more functionality in medium.com than we've built out. And there's different like columns and things like that. But overall, we really are pretty close to the functionality of medium.com. And you have, I mean, functionality wise, you have quite a bit that's up to par with medium.com. Then UI wise, there's anything you want to do here. If you wanted to change the listings at the home page, you can come back, and again, inside the router, our home page endpoint is just that story live home. So you can come in here to this HTML and you can do the same thing I did. You could find another component and you can modify this any way you want, and then this will be updated to display that new formatting. So you have the functionality. So this is the way I would work with Phoenix LiveView, is I would build the functionality out that you want, and then you can just go ahead like we did and jazz up the user interface later, and then mix in that functionality of your components inside of the Heeks file. And so you might be wondering, how do you remove this template here that's at the top? We did talk about this before in the fundamentals crash course, but just in case you want to spruce this up a little bit more by getting rid of the default template that's here, you could either go and modify that. So you could locate where there's this tag here. So if we come here and we do a Control F for that, we'll see that that's inside of the app HTML Heeks. So that's inside layouts. So lib, blog web, layouts, app HTML Heeks. So you could modify this and you could do your own thing here if you wanted to for the layout, or you could just completely disable this layout here by coming into the lib blog web and then locating under the blog web module. Inside of here, we can locate our live view, and you can see that there's a layout associated with our live view. So just simply deleting that will get rid of this layout. And now it looks like we may have made a couple of mistakes that we need to touch up here in the layout. So let's go ahead and let's address that. It looks like in our show HTML here that the back navigation is off the page as well as the comments. So I think we want the back navigation to be inside of here, and we want to move our comments inside of this div here. Let's see how that looks. And actually, we want those comments. We actually don't want the comments to go in there. We want the whole entire, this whole entire section that we have to go inside of this div. So it's just a matter of moving some code around. And that is better. And then we can add that margin top here. We want it to be, we want to take that margin top we applied before, move this from here over to here. And there you go, this looks much better. So if you want to remove that layout, you can go inside, again, that's lib blog web, and right there we have our blog web module, and we just remove that layout that's in there. So the only thing though is if we remove this layout and we come back to the home page right now, it looks really kind of bad here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just leave the layout in for now. And that way you can modify some more of your design in your UI before you decide to remove that. So that way this home page will still look like this, and this looks a little bit nicer. And then, you can, or the alternative is you could decide to, again, come inside here to the app HTML heeks and modify this file to spruce up your layout a little bit more. All right, so just wanted to address that layout as well. So congratulations. I'm not going to go too crazy with the user interface design. My goal was to really just build the functionality so that way you have a really similar function and application to medium.com. Again, it's a medium.com like clone. It's not verbatim, it's not perfect. I'm not going to try to build out it for one-to-one. I just wanted to focus on the core concepts and make sure that you could really understand how to work with your applications and understand the database side of things when you're building relationships between users and stories and comments and users and stories and comments, all of that stuff. So you have quite a bit of relationships taking place here in your application. And I encourage you from this point on, since you have all the skills that we've covered in this course, I encourage you to feel free to jazz up the user interface as much as you'd like, and feel free to play around and modify the functionality as you see fit. So congratulations and welcome to Phoenix 1.7. I hope that you really enjoyed this course. I'm looking forward to seeing your feedback and seeing you join for other courses in the future. If you are not currently a lifetime member, then I encourage you to join, and thank you for all of those that have joined and become lifetime members. All right, so I'll see you over in the next lesson.